Welcome back. Here we are in session 5, and our focus for this week in the Going to the Supper of the Lord program is on sorry. Being sorry, making amends, in getting engaged in this thing we call reconciliation. We hear about reconciliation in terms of making peace between the indigenous peoples of this ancient land and those of us whose families have come more recently. But reconciliation is part of everyday life, and so it's of course also part of our faith as people of Jesus, of people of Christian faith. So I'm standing in front of the high altar for this session, not because in a sense there's anything particularly connected with this, but because it's the most sacred part of the church. You can see that it's very beautifully decorated. A lot of love and care has gone into this part of the cathedral. And as we think about the altar, I'm reminded of a saying that some advice Jesus once gave to the people listening to him. He was talking about the altar and the temple in Jerusalem, but he said, if you're on your way to the altar, you're going to go to the temple and make a gift to God at the altar. You're standing close to the altar, you have your gift ready, and then you remember that there's a problem between you and somebody else. Put your gift down. Leave the altar. Go and find that person and fix things up with them first. You might have to say sorry. You might have to do something to make amends. You might have to give something back. You might have to replace something. There'll be some action perhaps that's needed. And then there'll be a change in your attitude and in their attitude, because instead of being suspicious of each other or worried about each other, you'll be relaxed and comfortable thinking about the next time that you're going to see each other. And Jesus said, once you've done that, when you've made peace with your other person, where you had a problem with, then come back to the altar. Then make your gift to God. Because God does not want us making gifts and doing things that are religious if we're not able as well to be treating those around us properly. So sorry, being sorry, doing the sorry work, as our Indigenous friends would be telling us, doing the sorry business, doing what has to happen in order to fix up the problems between us and other people. Then, of course, we can come back to God. We can approach God with confidence. Here at the cathedral, we have a special part in the service where we say sorry to God. And we don't just say sorry for the religious things we've got wrong. We say sorry for the times when we've failed to be a decent person and treat other people properly. Most of the time, that little part of the service happens right at the beginning. Just as part of our gathering in the cathedral, we pause to remember that none of us are perfect. All of us need forgiveness. All of us need to say sorry. All of us need reconciliation. And then there's another point a bit later in the service, just before we get ready for the great Thanksgiving and the communion that we'll be talking about in weeks 5 and 6, I think it is, or 6 and 7. There's a point there we call the greeting of peace, where people kind of turn around and go and greet each other. Perhaps they shake hands, perhaps they give somebody a hug or a kiss, and they're demonstrating that we care about each other, that we're friends with each other, that we're reconciled with each other, and that as people of Jesus, we share God's peace, not only because we receive forgiveness and reconciliation with God, because we exchange forgiveness and reconciliation with each other. So the next time you're here in the cathedral, pay attention to those parts in the service where we say, sorry God, we messed up. We need forgiveness. Remember the teachings of Jesus. Go and sort out your lives with other people before you front up to God's altar. And really come to appreciate that moment in the service when it gets a bit chaotic. It's a bit of a crowd mash-up kind of scene where people are turning around and talking and laughing and maybe sharing a bit of news and expressing the joy we have as people who are reconciled with each other, with God, and indeed with this beautiful world of which we are a part and in which we live.